I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so here's what I want to say. You saw what the thumbnail says, that the president is a liar. He is a liar. This is not foreign terror as of yet. We don't know if it's foreign terror. Well, we know it's not a foreign terrorist because the person who's accused of committing it is an American citizen, is an Army veteran. And so the president of the United States is politicizing this for political expedience, or at least he is trying to frame this in a way that is politically expedient for him and Republicans in his agenda, rather than just focusing on the tragedy, which is awful, which is the worst thing that a leader can do in this situation. So I just want to catch up, here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to be very honest with you. We're going to give you the facts about exactly what this is and what we know about right now. Not going to politicize it, but I will tell you that the president-elect of the United States is a liar, especially about this issue. And you should not allow him to lie about it and to get away with it. Okay? So you need to be aware. The president-elect, thank you very much for correcting me, is lying. Prayers up for New Orleans, says Cindy Turley, and I agree with that. Here's a report just to catch you up on it so you can see the horror of what happened in New Orleans. In case you've been dialed out, like many Americans this weekend, like I have, I want to catch you up. Let's start, and then we'll get into exactly what this is and why you should be concerned about it.
Chaos in the French Quarter. This truck darting around a police vehicle, then accelerating into a crowd on Bourbon Street.
It was pandemonium. It was obviously emergency vehicles everywhere. Police were everywhere. Bodies, folks were just running through the streets.
At least 15 killed, dozens injured in what the FBI has labeled a suspected terror attack.
An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle. Weapons and potential improvised explosive devices, IEDs, were located in the subject's vehicle.
The suspect, identified as 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. citizen from Texas who spent a decade in the Army. After crashing into a roadside crane, Jabbar apparently jumping from the vehicle. And after wounding 2 officers, killed in a shootout with police. Agents now indicating he likely had help carrying out the attack.
We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
Law enforcement teams searching the suspect's home in Houston and the scene of an overnight fire at a New Orleans Airbnb, where investigators believe some of the explosive devices may have been assembled. 2 additional IEDs located in the French Quarter were rendered safe. The area still locked down as the investigation continues. Jay Gray, NBC News.
All right, so that is the NBC News report from New Orleans, okay? So that is what happened. Investigators are still working tirelessly to try to find anyone tied to this deadly New Year's Day attack in New Orleans. It killed at least 15 people, okay? Now, I'm going to get into the specifics in a moment, but one person who is not helping out here, and that is Donald Trump. Let me explain. Let's put up this tweet. This is what he tweeted yesterday. When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and fake news media. But it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. We'll get to that. Our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. Perhaps that they could stop doing that by demonizing cities. Leave that up for a minute, please. Cities that they call Democrat cities instead of democratic cities. New Orleans being one of them, Chicago being another, New York being another, Los Angeles being another, Philadelphia being another. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. A way of supporting New Orleans is not to demonize it beforehand, as you have done before. That would have been a great way of helping out the situation. And you're not helping the situation by lying about what it is or what you even know at the moment about what it is. To say, and this is just a side note, that the crime rate in our country, give me some crime stats, please, producer, so that we can fact check this. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has seen before. Yeah, at a low level that people have not seen before. Are there increases in crime in some places? But traditionally, in most major violent crime, the crime rate is low, and in many facets at its lowest that it has been. So again, one thing that he is, that's why I tell you, you can't like every tweet. Some don't matter. This one matters because it's about a very serious situation that's happening and that he's lying about, okay? Our criminals are coming in are far worse than criminals we have in our country. This person did not come into the country. He's an American citizen. He is a veteran. So let's get to who he is. What can I tell? So here's the thing. It turned out to be true. All right, so that's his thing. So he's lying about the immigrants. Now, someone who is always taking a measured and reasonable approach, given the information that he has, is someone who is a real leader, someone who acts like a real leader and not a petulant child who is always trying to use a tragedy, never let a tragedy go to waste, to try to make himself look good because he is a small person. Violent crimes are down in San Francisco, says Renee Hutchins. Keep it coming. You guys can be my fact checkers, okay? Lemonheads. M-Town Boy for you says, I mean, a criminal would know best about criminal activity, right, Donald Trump? Again, why would you do this when you don't know? Why would you bullshit people and lie about something you don't know to be true yet? Here's the current presidential acting person who is the president of the United States, Joe Biden, giving a briefing yesterday. I'm catching you up, and then I'm going to go into what's wrong with this.
Directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement to complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly and to make sure there is no remaining threat to the American people. To all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn and as you heal in the weeks to come. The spirit of our New Orleans will never, never, never be defeated. It always will shine forth. We've seen that time and time again throughout its history. And I know we'll see it again in the days and weeks ahead.
So that is the current president of the United States trying to be a what? Counselor in chief, a truth teller in chief, a fact checker in chief. Slow your roll. Let's figure out what this is. Now, you think our government doesn't know about these terror threats? They're working all the time. It's awful that this happened, and our hearts go out to the people of Louisiana, the people of New Orleans. And trust me, this means a lot more to me than most of the people watching, because that is my home state. I reached out to the folks there who I love. Most of them, their family members are okay, but they say the same. This is awful, Don. This is terrible, a terrible way to start the New Year's. And even though my family is okay, there are a lot of folks around us whose families are not okay, and I'm thinking about them. Now, that is what selfless people do. When you are the president-elect, you're concerned about what this means for you, what you look like in all of this. And that's why you say, see, I told you. This is basically, I told you so, rather than our hearts go out to the folks. We have a problem with domestic terrorism in this country. We have a problem with terrorism all over the world. But we're going to make sure that we take care of the American people when I'm in office. That would be a very reasonable thing to tweet, to post. President Biden is being a human being first, not a hate monger, says M-Town Boy for you. And I think, CC says, I think we have 4 years of nonsense. I just can't. That's why I say you don't have to just can't. You don't have to. If you said, I just can't, you don't have to. You don't have to be in it every second. I'm not going to bombard you with all of the bullshit and all of the lies. But the things that are important, I'm going to tell you about. This is just to look how horrific this is and to think about the horror of this and how someone might try to use it for their political expedience. Let's look at this is some video, a part of the New Orleans attack on New Year's Day. Now that appears to be the beginning of it, right? And did you see those people hustle out of the way? That appears to be the gunman, reportedly from this video. There you go. Look how close the lady, the redhead lady. And it looks like it appears to be the same truck. And so the truck would be speeding away, trying to get to, one would think. But look at people scurrying to try to get to safety as this truck is making its way through, and you see the flag pole that looks like the flag belonging to the terror group. And I want to say the terror group. The terror group sounds like ICE, and then you can put another thing on it. But with these algorithms, you have to be very careful because they don't like you to say certain terms, and then you get suppressed. Okay. So for a moment, can we please not politicize the death and the sadness of the people who experience this? And we'll get to the victims in a moment. This is the suspect. He's believed to be identified as Shamsud Din Jabbar, 42-year-old. Now, are you listening, everyone, especially you MAGA folks, you trolls? Listen to me. Because he's brown, because he has a name that's Shamsud Din Jabbar, that doesn't make him any less American than anyone. That doesn't make him any less American than an Irish person, than an Italian person who has family. Maybe they may be first generation American or second generation American. It doesn't make him any less. Thank you, Felicia Tinsley, for your support. DJT and MTG will always spread misinformation and confuse the situation. And that is what's happening. You know why they're doing it, okay? You know why they're doing it. Thank you, Randy King. Republicans, tough on some crime in November. They're doing it because they don't want you to focus on the things that are important to you, like raising the minimum wage, like the CHIPS Act, like the Child Protection Act, right? Like your taxes. They don't want you to focus on those things. They want you to focus on the culture wars that will get you riled up so you can say, yeah, he was right, the president. They don't want you to focus on Social Security. They don't want you to focus on possibility of taking Medicare and Medicaid away. They don't want you to focus on that. They don't want you to focus on raising taxes for you and lowering them for rich people. Cecilia Coleman, you're right, and thank you for your support. Dems, next vote, get your butts out and vote. Yes. Thank you, Patty, on TikTok. Check out Don's YT channel. It's amazing. Who he's talking to. That's who I'm talking to right now on my YT channel, in case you want to know. Go there. At least 15 people were killed. Okay. Now listen to this. Again, he has been identified. Put the picture back up, please. Shamsud Din Jabbar, 42-year-old U.S.-born citizen and U.S. Army veteran, or as you guys say, veteran, some of you, from Texas. A U.S. citizen. So when the former and president-elect tweets, when I said the criminals are coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. No, that's a lie. Because he's not coming into our country. He was born here. And he's a U.S., he served his country. You know, the folks when we see when most of us have contact with them, either our loved ones who come home for when they are furloughed, or they come home from, when they've done their time, their service, or we see them for the holidays and we say, thank you for your service. We see them on airplanes and in the airports and out in public, and they're in their uniforms, and we say, thank you for your service. We celebrate Veterans Day or Labor Day, or any of the other military related holidays. What do we say? We thank them for their service. Well, you can thank him for his service as well, because he served his country. Now, what he's accused of doing is horrific, and there is a distinction there. We can hold many thoughts in our minds at the same time. Think about, if you can, producers, I forgot to ask you this, Peter and Nikki, get me some information on homegrown terrorists or Americans who have been co-opted by forces that are overseas. Okay? Who have been co-opted by forces that are overseas, because it happens to many of them. Do you remember, gosh, why can't I think of his name, who was called the American, again, I'm worried about what I say on these things, G, and then add to that Hod. Do you remember him? Then there was the American ICE is. There have been many of them, and they're American citizens. And guess what? That is domestic terrorism, which is the #1 terror threat in the country. Now, to be honest with you, the incidents, because of the ongoing situation in the Middle East as it relates to Gaza and Israel, that has changed the dynamics of some of this. When you look at the events that happened on October 7th, U.S.-born citizen and U.S. Army veteran from Texas, according to the FBI. It happened to a crowd on Bourbon Street. Now, the truck, if you can show the truck, if you can show it again, this is for sure. If we can show that video again, this is, I know the French Quarter very well, and this is the French Quarter when you look at that video of the truck going through. That's the French Quarter, no doubt. Spent many there a lot. I grew up an hour down the road in Baton Rouge. We were there a lot, depending on how fast you drive. It could be an hour, it could be an hour and a half, but depending on how fast you drive. 32 Antoine says, Trump didn't have the same energy when those domestic terrorists stormed the Capitol on January 6th. He is talking about pardoning them. Thank you, 32 Antoine. We're getting to that. Because they are what? Domestic terrorists. The January 6th folks. And this is the hypocrisy of the MAGA movement. Those people can't be terrorists because they were white people, mainly. But because this guy's a brown person, he's automatically a terrorist. Now, in the end, he may well and probably will be a terrorist. It's a terrorist attack. But so was January 6th. January 6th was not a terrorist attack because of white people. They were white guys, mainly, and some white women. A white woman died, remember? That's terrorism as well. That is terrorism as well. Dr. D. Rico says it's time to rise up now. Dr. D. Rico says the J6 insurrection was misplaced. Now it's time to rise up against Trump. Not then. So can we just be honest about this? None of it's good. No one is saying that what he did was good. But I'm just trying to get you to understand, like, you can't have two different standards for what terrorism is based on the religion or the skin color of the people accused of committing it. The efforts to try to figure out exactly who this is and if there are other people with it, they're searching two locations. There's an Airbnb in New Orleans that you saw in the report that may be tied to the suspect in the residence in Houston and has been linked to the suspect, Jabbar. The Airbnb was involved in some kind of fire or detonation earlier in the day, the sources says, which raised concerns about the possibility that there were more explosives linked to the suspect and are yet to be recovered. Okay? An ISIS flag, this is important. We're trying to figure out what this is. An ISIS flag was found on a pole on the truck's trailer hitch, and authorities are working to determine whether the deceased, pardon me for that, suspect had any affiliation with terrorist organizations. Now, they're working to figure that out, and we should all wait to see if it does. The flag is concerning, and it would indicate a connection to a foreign terror group. But this was committed on domestic soil by a U.S. citizen, okay? Now, is this flag, as they say, a false flag? Did they do it to throw someone off? To throw people off? We don't know yet. Or is it tied to that group? Authorities do believe that Jabbar was radicalized in the last few years, and that radicalization may have been exacerbated by the Israel-Hamas war. And that is what I've been trying to tell you guys about. Let's go to Vegas now. And the breaking news out of Las Vegas is the news on exactly what happened with that truck. There was an explosion that happened. The latest news, and there was a press conference that also happened recently there as well in Las Vegas. The breaking news is that the person who rented this Tesla Cybertruck that was used in an explosion outside the entrance of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas has been identified as an active duty member of the U.S. Army's elite Special Forces unit, two U.S. defense officials said. Another member of our military. And these folks coming into office want to cut some of that funding, reportedly. You guys down with that? MAGA, you down with that? Cutting the funding? Read the reports, y'all, about who wants to cut the money to what. When we have these military members, where someone, who was it that put in the, I read it moments ago and I forget the name. Should they be giving more money to the military and more psychiatric examinations? Huh? There are folks who are coming in office right now who want to cut military funding for that. The truck was rented to Matthew Allen Levelsberger. Two senior law enforcement officials told NBC News, but it was not immediately clear whether that was the identity of the person who was killed inside the vehicle when it erupted into flames early Wednesday outside the Trump International Hotel, or who may have been responsible for the explosion. An Army spokesperson said that Levelsberger was on approved leave at the time of the incident and assigned to the U.S. Army Special Operations Command. He entered the active duty Army in December of 2012 after serving in the National Guard and Army Reserve. Meanwhile, federal law enforcement agents began searching a residence in Colorado Springs, Colorado, connected to this case, and were expected to be on site for several hours, the agency said in a statement. This activity is related to the explosion in Las Vegas, the FBI said, declining to provide further details. It's being investigated as a possible terrorist attack, three senior law enforcement members said. A motive has yet to be established. Here is a report on the Las Vegas happenings.
Well, Giovanni, it was just after 8:40 this morning when that Tesla Cybertruck exploded in front of the Trump Hotel near Las Vegas Boulevard. Tonight, authorities telling us they know what caused that explosion to happen, but are still working to piece together a motive. Tonight, one person is dead and 7 others injured after a 2024 Cybertruck exploded in front of the Trump Hotel on Las Vegas Boulevard. A surveillance camera on property capturing the moment the truck blew up, leaving behind a plume of smoke and debris near the hotel's entrance.
We're looking directly into Trump Tower from our room, and then I saw there was a second explosion. So I heard one and then saw the other one actually happen, and it was like fireworks were shooting off.
Investigators confirmed a body was found inside the Cybertruck. Authorities are still working to identify them.
So that's what's happening. We have, I believe, several of, I want to show you just how this happened. Do we have some video of this truck? That was from the Associated Press. Look at look at how that happened. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think I'm not sure what else that you have gathered, producers, but just play it.
A 2024 Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the area valet of the Trump International Hotel. Very quickly thereafter that, the driver, who was the sole occupant of the truck, we saw what looked like maybe some sort of smoke, and then the truck exploded. Smoke was coming from inside of the truck after we noticed the flash and the explosion, and I'm going to show you that first video. That's the Cybertruck parked right in front of the doors. Can you play that again, Carlos? So the individual that was in that truck is obviously deceased, still in the truck as we speak here today. Our fire department folks, Engine 12, a number of others, you'll hear from one of the fire chiefs here in just a moment, arrived very quickly along with my officers. And obviously we knew that we had a much larger event than just a vehicle fire. And so there's going to be a drone video that plays to my left again. You'll see as the fire initially, they covered it with the tarp to try to get it to go out. Once the fire went out through the suppression efforts of the fire department, you'll see some of the evidence in the back of the vehicle. So those are gasoline canisters. They are camp fuel canisters and large firework mortars. What I also would like you to pay attention to on that video, as you see that, it looks like the exterior of that truck is completely intact as it sits there. The fact that this was a Cybertruck really limited the damage that occurred inside of the valet, because it had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. In fact, if you look on that video, you'll see that the front glass doors at the Trump Hotel were not even broken by that blast, which they were parked directly in front of. You can see that in the video there.
So that's the press conference that they were giving. Believe that was yesterday. Now, the press conference that they had today, they said that they did not believe that this was connected to New Orleans. Now, we don't know for sure about any of this, but that's what they're saying to us. Okay? So this is the Vegas guy. Correct?
Yes, that is what we found.
Member of the military, there with a long weapon, a long pew pew. What is going on here, guys? Are you guys not concerned about this? Green herbs and juice. I'm not sure if they said in the Army together, but they said that both served at Fort Bragg. That is the report. I'm concerned about this, and I'm concerned about our military members. So now, if this is indeed, according to Newsweek, if this is a second shooter, the second attack suspect, and if it's indeed terrorism, how do you feel about this? It looks like a white guy. Do you feel differently? MAGA? Both were born here in America. Their names sound a bit different. They look different. But if it's indeed true, if it is indeed terrorism, then they both committed the same act. We don't know the motivation behind it, all the specifics, but judging right now at the surface, if that person is indeed the person in that news picture from Newsweek, according to Newsweek, and you look at the person in New Orleans, one's brown, one's white, both accused or suspected of terrorism at this point. Vegas has not been confirmed. Facts are important. But if it turns out to be that, how then do you feel? How do you separate the two in your mind and you make them different things? Because you'll look at the person in New Orleans because they are brown and they have a Muslim sounding last name. And you'll say, oh my God, it's terrorism. And the president-elect will tweet out a post. Their enemies are coming from outside. And that's, I told you guys that. But will he do the same thing about the Las Vegas person at his hotel in a Tesla truck who is a white guy? Is he going to say coming from outside? Is he going to say, no, he can't say coming from outside. Is he going to say, again, I preface this by saying, if it's indeed true, is he going to say that we need to fix our homegrown domestic terrorism problem? And listen to me really good. Domestic terrorism, as I have said before, and so is Christopher Wray, are mostly people who are radicalized on the right, white men. Now, the guy in New Orleans is a brown person. An anomaly. Doesn't happen that much. It's still wrong, and it does occur. But for the most part, it is usually a right-wing radicalized person doing it for racist reasons. Now, that's not just me. That's according to the head of the FBI. Maybe one of the reasons that he's being kicked out is because he's saying real shit like that. Will he come out strong against domestic terrorism and say we need to stop all of these enemies from within who are born in this country, who are right-wing, radicalized white guys? We need to stop that. Is he going to say that? Anyone? Bueller? Do you think he'll say that? Answer me. What do you guys think? Both are bad. I'm just trying to make a distinction. What I'm trying to prove to you here and show you guys is the hypocrisy of Donald Trump and the MAGA folks. Because anyone can be co-opted from any different background. So just as January 6th, those people who have been convicted and who are found guilty are terrorists. They have been convicted. And just as the attacker in New Orleans is a terrorist if convicted. And the person in Vegas, if it is indeed true, they would all be considered terrorists of different ethnicities and backgrounds, but all equally committing the same acts. The only difference is the distinction that you make in your head, because when you see the person, you try to make excuses for the person who looks like you. And no, that person's not a terrorist. Mental health. We need to take care of our mental health system, these poor people or whatever. Yeah. Even the guy with the Muslim sounding last name has to be given the same sort of thought process that you do with the January 6th person. We are thrilled to have you as one of our watchers. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button as well. And that way you can be notified about all of our new content. There's plenty of it for you. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop more videos at 2 p.m. Eastern and at 5 p.m. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon Nation, of the Lemon community. Members receive access to special community posts, exclusive content, and live shows. So just head right over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.